Hi, welcome to another episode of Guided and Grounded, a weekly series where I share wisdom from the spirit guides with you and then allow them to guide you through an experience in order to shift your energy and integrate it and expand beyond it. This is a series that I release every Monday, and every week there's a different message specifically for you that the spirit guides want to share with you. And I specifically set the intention that the message that comes through is meant for you. So if you're seeing this, I want you to know that this is meant for you. And I also set the intention that it's meant to find you in a timely manner. So when you're seeing this, whenever you're seeing this, I want you to know that it's meant for you and meant for you to receive it at this time. So the way this works, if this is your first time tuning in, is I just close my eyes and I allow the spirit guides to start talking. And whatever they want to say, whatever they want to share with you today, I relay that message. And the message tends to build as it goes. So they kind of give me little chunks at a time and we kind of explore it together. And then they lead you through some sort of an experience related to the message. So I'm just going to close my eyes and tune into them and see what they want to share with you today. Just give me 1 second. Okay, so they tend to start with an image and then they expand on the meaning of this image as we go. So what they're immediately showing me is a cliff overlooking the ocean and all of these birds flying off the cliff and flying over the ocean. And there's just fields of flowers and grass, and it's a very rugged and remote place. And as the birds are flying, it seems like it's very windy, and the wind is knocking them from side to side, and it requires effort on their part to stay the course inside of this like really windy sky on this day. And now they're showing me how these birds dive down into the ocean and they dive down as far as they can to grab fish. And so they fly off the cliff and they fly over the ocean until they spot what they want below and then they nosedive down into the water and grab it. And there's something about trusting that fall. Let me see what they want to say about that. There's a lot of trust required of these birds to trust their own instincts, where, you know, over the course of thousands, maybe millions of years, they've developed this instinctual way of feeding themselves, where they fly over the ocean and they dive down to grab the fish. And it's a very long way down. And the wind is knocking them from side to side, and they're kind of free falling down towards the ocean. But over the course of thousands or millions of years, they have developed this instinctual trust in this process where despite the environment not being necessarily suitable for this sort of activity on this particular day that the guides are describing to me, they're doing it anyway because they have this trust in their own instincts. They've done it so many times before, over and over and over again, that there's not a lot of fear there. They just do it. They don't think about it. They go for it. And because they trust in themselves to know what to do and to know how to handle the environment, regardless of the day, it can be a sunny day, it can be a rainy day, it can be a windy day. That's that's what's required of them to eat food. And so they do it and they don't question it and they don't question their own ability to do it either. They just do it. And because they don't question themselves and because they just do what they know how to do, they're successful every time. There's no hesitation. Okay. That's interesting. Okay, where are you guys going with this? There's also a need there that they're showing me that these birds are not necessarily engaging in this activity for their own survival, but they're also doing it because they have chicks that they have to care for. And they're just showing me these images about how their offspring are lying and waiting for them in the nests. And these birds have to go out and they have to face the elements specifically and especially on days where it's not necessarily conducive to being able to get food quickly and easily, but they go out and they do it anyway because there are offspring that depend on them for that food. And so they just overcome any challenges that they perceive to be there and they just do it anyway. Okay, what else? And it's also important for their young ones to watch them do that too, to witness how their parents go out and they do what they need to do because one day those young ones are going to have to do the same thing. So not only are they overcoming their own sense of maybe reluctance to go out there in conditions that are not suitable, but they do it because they have to survive. They do it because their children are depending on them. And they also do it to set an example so that their children develop the skills necessary to survive as well. So it's this kind of like multifaceted situation that they're in where they're overcoming whatever obstacles or challenges that they are met with because of all of these different reasons that they perceive are more necessary than holding back and waiting for a better day. So now they're taking this analogy and they want you to turn it back to you and allow it to mirror to you where you're seeing yourself operating in the same way and also where you're seeing yourself operating differently in your own life. They're saying that they're witnessing a lot of us deny our own instincts and self-trust because we're fearing that something is going to get in our way. So where the birds, they do what they have to do because they trust their own instincts, we hold back in many different ways. We have lost that sense of trust in our own calling, like whatever path, whatever direction, whatever action, whatever choice, we have this nudge, this inkling, this calling to take, to go, to initiate. We hold back where the birds don't. Okay, what else? Okay. So we have both been the young birds in the nest watching our parents and also taken on the role of adult, whether or not you have children. but you have grown into an adult yourself. And we have witnessed our own parents hesitate. Is that right? I just want to double check. Yes. Whether or not whether or not they overcame that fear, we saw the fear in them. We felt it, we recognized it, and we internalized it. And we have taken that on in some capacity as well, where they, where the birds didn't have that. And so that instinctual need to hold back and to hesitate wasn't passed down to their babies. Th that has for us, where our parents or whoever it was that was modeling a way of life to us when we were little, we observed how they went out in the world filled with fear, anxiety, trepidation, hesitation. Um, and although maybe they tried to hide it, we saw it. And we took that on to mean that there was a reason for that. They wouldn't be acting that way if there wasn't a reason for it. There must be something out there that is scary enough that would cause them to feel that way. And whatever our young mind perceived that that reason was, became our reason too. And we began to operate in the same way. And in some ways, we operate in a fearless sense, but in many ways we don't, especially when it's something that's calling to us in a different way, that requires us to face a different set of circumstances in a different environment that we're not familiar with. Okay, what else? What else do you guys want them to know about this? So today's message and exercise is really going to be an observation about where in your life you hesitate, where in your life you recognize that there's a calling there, that there's something inside of you that is calling to you, a longing, a nudge of some kind, where you have been hesitating. You have been hesitating because you perceive that there's something out there that's threatening, that's going to throw you off course, and that's going to prevent you from getting the fish that you want and bringing that back and allowing you to survive and thrive in the way that you watched your parents struggle with the same thing, or whoever it was that was raising you or that modeled um, your early life when you were little. What else? They're saying that the birds never know what the environment is going to be on any given day. They wake up and that's the reality of that day, and they have to go out about their business regardless of what the circumstances are. And it's the same for us. We cannot control the outside world. We cannot control what other people say, what other people do, and what life throws at us. And if we're always going to wait for the right circumstances, like if the birds were to sit and wait for a sunny, perfect day to go out and dive into the water and get fish, they might starve. And they're also modeling this fear to their children too. And it's going to pass down from generation to generation, and eventually they might die off. And the survival instinct that's needed for them is sort of the same one that's needed for us, where we have to change our relationship with the fear that we have in our own inability to trust ourselves, because this is essentially what it's stemming from. When we hold back because we're afraid of being thrown off course and not being successful or not being able to do the thing we want to do, we are not trusting in our own abilities. We're not trusting in our own instincts and our own intuition, our own capacity, capability, wisdom, strength, um, and that is really what they want you to observe in your life, is where you're not trusting in you and where you're not giving yourself enough credit to be capable. All right. Is there anything else inside of this metaphor message today that you want to share with them? Okay. They're saying that your parents or whoever it was that raised you didn't overcome their fears to give you this life only so that you would hesitate to create the dreams that live in here. And if you're worried about failing or what they might say if it doesn't work out in the way that you want it to, what if the gift is not in the outcome, but in the opportunity to go for what you want? That's the gift that they gave you. The gift of having the opportunity to follow your dream, regardless of what happens with it. You have this incredible gift of opportunity, and they would want you, and they do want you to realize that and to follow that in perhaps a way that they didn't or couldn't. I feel like that's a specific message for a few of you. What else? Okay, they're showing me the image again of the birds jumping off the cliff. And they're saying that it feels like the birds are falling. When they're jumping off the cliff and they're diving down to get the fish, there's a sensation of falling, but they're falling with purpose. And there's a prize at the end of the drop. And so, as you move through life, as you attempt to follow your calling, it might feel like you're falling, like you're failing, like you're not moving in the direction that you're supposed to be. But maybe that's not true. Maybe that's just a perspective that you're holding. And if you're willing to shift your perspective, you might see it differently. When we watch the birds jump off the cliff, we might perceive the ones flying out into the distance as the successful ones. They jumped off and they're taking off into the sky and they're flying with purpose towards the horizon. And we might see the ones falling towards the water as moving in the wrong direction or not being successful or allowing the wind to knock them off course. But what we can't perceive from our vantage point is that there's purpose behind that choice to fall down rather than fly off into the sunset or up into the sky. And perhaps that's another perspective shift that you w would do you well is anytime you perceive that things aren't going your way and it feels like you're falling or failing, maybe there's a prize at the end of that road that is specifically only accessed inside of that outcome, inside of that falling feeling or failure feeling. And all that's required is to shift your perspective of the situation in order to see it that way. And if you're the only one that can see that, that's okay too, because the lesson and the outcome and the experience is meant for you and you alone. It doesn't matter what other people's perspectives are. If you're the bird falling towards the water, it doesn't matter what the person on the cliff thinks about your choice. It doesn't matter that they perceive you to be moving in the wrong direction or being pushed off course. You know in your heart of hearts that you're doing what you need to do and that there's a prize at the bottom of it. And you're providing for yourself, you're providing for your family, and you are actually succeeding at the task that you had planned, which was to get the prize of the food or whatever that would look like in your circumstances. So to not allow the thoughts and opinions and perspectives of other people to dictate whether or not you're successful. If it looks like it's not working from the outside, but to you, you just know that it is, that's all that matters. Okay, I think that might be it. What a beautiful analogy. Anything else you want them to know about this? Okay, they're saying that today they they want to keep the experience part of this message short. It's really about observing where this is happening for you. It's about creating awareness today and reflecting this message and this message alone. And there's nothing necessarily that they want to guide you through with this. They just want to reflect this today. I just want to double check that. Okay. They just want you to observe the discomfort that you feel as you're being reflected this message, that there might be a truth here for you inside of it. And if there's any discomfort that this brings up for you, to hold it with love and to hold it with compassion. And that is really what they're asking for you to do today. Do you want to guide them through that, though? Do you want to just leave them with this message? Yeah, no, they're saying that there's no guided experience today. They're saying that you know what you need to do. You know how to hold this with compassion. And you, I mean, we've filmed a few of these already, so you can go back and rewatch other ones and apply those same techniques to this specific experience and this specific analogy today. But they're saying really what they wanted today was to reflect this message, that they see this and they want you to know that they see this and they want you to begin to really observe it and witnessing it as well. And yeah, they're saying that you know what to do. They trust you. They know that you know what to do. And that that you're going to figure it out and you're going to be just fine. Okay. Any final words for today? They're just showing me that the birds have this lightness inside of them. They don't carry a heaviness. And because of that, the, you would think that that would make it easier for the wind to knock them from side to side, but it actually makes it harder because they flow with the energy. The wind does move them around, but they allow it to. And because they flow with the energy of the wind and the environment that they're in, they can never get knocked off course because they're always in flow and they're always allowing and they allow it to kind of guide them, and it doesn't really matter what route they take. They're saying that a lot of us are very rigid, that we only like one path and it has to be that path, it has to be that way. And when we're knocked off course, we freak out because we don't know what to do when things begin to look different because it didn't look that way. That's the way we wanted it to look. And for the birds, that's not the case. If the wind knocks them over slightly 2 feet to the right, they just fly 2 feet to the right. Ultimately, they know that it's leading them in the same direction, and they just trust in their own instincts to guide them to the end goal. And so for us, we have to learn how to hold that lightness like the birds do and to not be weighed down by our own sense of urgency or unpredictability or shame or judgment of how it looks and where it's headed and exactly how it's supposed to be, but to feel light and to allow our own instincts to guide us forward and to trust that we will be able to figure it out regardless of what it looks like, regardless of where it's headed, and regardless of what the opinions and perceptions are of those around us. To keep a light heart, to go with the flow of life, to know that things are going to pop up that are outside of our control, and to just flow with it. Just go with the flow because ultimately the destination is the experience itself, is what they're saying. And that's difficult for us to hear because for us, the outcome is usually quite important. But they're saying that that's part of the reason why we hesitate is because we put so much pressure on the outcome and not the gift of the possibility and the potential and um, the option that those before us may not have had. We have the opportunity to experience all of that fear and all of that uncertainty and all of that um, lack of structure that's required to follow our dream, to follow our calling. And we are telling ourselves that it sucks and that it's challenging and that we wish it was easier when there are others who never even had the option in the first place. To just carry that inside of you and to allow that gratitude to give you that lightness that allows you to go with the flow and to enjoy the entire experience and the entire process because there are so many people that never had the option to and the opportunity to, and you do. Anything else for today? No. All right. Just want to double check if there's anything else that you want to say. Yeah, they're just saying be light, be love, be bold, and be grateful. Wow, what a cute send off. I hope you enjoyed that. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. I would love to hear if this specific message resonates for you in terms of something that you're currently going through and experiencing in your life. Leave a comment below if that's the case. And like and subscribe if you want to watch more of these. And thank you so much for experiencing this with me and with all the spirit guides. And I will see you next week. Bye.